Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck, and I'm Mark Carbon, and with me today is Mr. Matt Germain. Once again, bringing you all the great news about baseball, whether it be the trades, whether it be somebody buying a new team. Oh, that's not happening, is it? I don't think so. Anyway, Matt, how you doing today, buddy?
I haven't been traded. It's official. They traded everybody else but us.
Oh, gosh. Well, you know, it's got to be weird when you see a guy who just said he's going to retire, be traded. it's what Kevin Kiermaier. My gosh, brother, is that insane or what?
Well, it only makes sense. I mean, Andrew Freeman was the one who brought him into the league. So it only, holds true that he would actually get him back for the finishing part of his career. So I think it's great. Like a team like the Dodgers will definitely use Kiermaier and his best capabilities and his best ways. So I'm happy he gets to finish in a place where, the games will be important, and that's usually when he shines the most.
True. Yeah, well, he'll have the opportunity to do that with the Dodgers, so I'm glad to hear that. But I mean, the big news in Tampa, outside the trades, of course, is, hey, folks, we got a stadium. Whoa.
Yep. Put the tents away. You're no longer homeless.
Ain't that the truth? I mean, you kind of got early excitement saying, oh, great, the St. Pete Council has voted on this. They passed it. We're all good. Everything's going to be happening. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you forget, Mark, there's actually a county commissioners. They got another $300 million that you've got to convince them to spend too. Oh, they did come through though with 5-2 votes.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I tip my cap to those that stood opposed and stood their ground and wouldn't bend to the pressures. But all that said, no matter which side of the fence you're on, whether or not you like or hate the fact that they're spending money on this kind of thing, I think when you look at the whole scale of it and the fact that you have a professional sports team now settled in St. Pete that'll continue on for at least 2 to 3 generations, then you're able to build the history that will kind of make it a concrete part of the community there, and hopefully it never leaves, really. So kudos to everybody that's going to go out there and enjoy it, and to the fact that now they can start the development of this billions and billions and billions of dollar area, which is going to be a lot of fun to kind of go and explore once they finish it off.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I have yet to send that email to Stu requesting a special suite for the Baseball Biz on Deck gang. And but
for me, it'll just be a TV screen looking around.
Well, I'm excited for it. It's going to be interesting. It's, I want to talk about the Rays, but if also looking as far as all of these trades over the place, the ones that jumped out at me, one of them is because he's an X-ray. That's Tommy Pham. And it's good to see he's going to the Cardinals. I think he enjoyed being there before, if I remember correctly. And man, he brings fire wherever he goes.
Right. And I don't know if you recall, but when he left St. Louis, the main reason that they thought that, he was a little bit of a hot potato was, number one, they always have a plethora of outfielders ready to go in St. Louis. I think Jason Hayward was there. I think there was a lot of young guys coming up. But more than anything, there was the eyesight issue that he had that had just started to be well known, and nobody was really sure how well the treatment was going to go, how much it was going to diminish his play. So he ended up moving on. But yeah, like you, I think his time there was positive overall. And I don't think, if the health things had been different, he might have stuck around there for quite a while. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good thing for him. I love Tommy anyway. He's always exciting, but he's always committed to being out in the game. That's one thing you can say for sure when it comes to him out there.
Oh, he's intense. Yeah.
Let's see some of the other ones. Oh, I know. I seeing Jazz Chisolm going from Miami to the Yankees and scoring home run after home run after home run. in his first couple of games with the Yankees. And it's just like, wow, man. If I was a Yankees fan, I would certainly be feeling pretty great about that.
It's odd. The Yankees, they had Matt Carpenter do the same kind of thing where he just put on that uniform and became a different person. So who knows how long it'll last for Jazz, but he's definitely amping up a fan base that, and to be quite honest, not just a fan base. Like now, does Juan Soto have a different outlook on staying with the Yankees if Jazz is there? Like to me, that's the biggest thing. If it continues and he does well like this all the way through the end of the season, Juan Soto might not be skittish at all about signing a long-term deal with the Yankees.
Because he thinks that he made a commitment to talent. Because no, Cashman gets a lot of grief from a lot of the Yankees fans.
As he should. I think so. The biggest pet peeve I think I hear from most people, and I do talk to a lot of Yankee fans. I don't know why they gravitate to me, but the main thing that I hear is how slow he is to react to the team's performances in season. And they don't really make many in-season moves. They're a little bit like the Jays, where what we got is what we got, and we're riding with it. And they're very skittish about changing much about what they've built in the offseason. I don't know why that is, but I think that's why Brian Cashman gets a lot of grief. Now, this year, they both made a lot more moves at the trade deadline than they normally do. So we'll see how they play out. But I still think if you ask around right now, most people think the Yankees should have gotten more pitching, and they're not satisfied with what they got. So it's just another example of you got the hitter, but now what about the pitching? It's falling apart really. So and Luis Gil, like as much as I never saw Luis Gil coming, I will own up to the fact that I thought, okay, maybe he's going to be a reliever. He was coming back from major surgery, yada, yada, yada. But he's not going to be able to do the lengthy season, I don't think, unless you want to re-injure him. So at some point, the innings count is going to come into play with him. Nestor Cortez, there's a bunch of Jarrett Cole was taken off his latest start so that they could, anyways, there's just a lot of question marks. So Jazz is definitely lighting it up, but unless he can pitch, they're going to be hurting anyway.
You see, like when Giancarlo Stanton did, I think he was with Miami years ago when he came into the Yankees organization, and he's a powerhouse. And last couple of years he hasn't been, what he once was. And when you have to look continually at Judge and now Soto as the main elements to making anything happen, Cashman's feet are on fire, I'm sure. So we'll see how that actually impacts the rest of their season. Because the last time I looked, they were a half game behind the Orioles in the AL East.
Yep, things are tightening up though. Like they are coming back to the pack a little bit as well overall. So I wouldn't say they're in reach. We only have just under 55 games left, so it's not it's not easy to catch teams when they're that good,
Right.
to make up games. So I don't expect either of those to get passed by anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that they're, if they do go on any extended slump, that possibility does exist to a minor portion.
Well, let's take a look. So what else? I don't want to go into bad. Do what some other time would have
Nate from Full Count Chaos,
Orioles podcasters to talk about what all happened with them, because they did a lot more activity than I thought they would, as well as they're doing. But maybe that's something for maybe another show. So let's come back home.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays and see. Let's take a look at names here: Tyler Zuber, Zach Eflin, Jason Adam, Randy Rosarina, Isaac Paredes, Ahmed Rosario, Sean Armstrong, Harold Ramirez. Oh my gosh. And I'm sure there's one or two I left off. Where should we start with this group?
I think the main ones that fans are going to miss probably the most or talk about the most are definitely Randy Rosarina and Zach Eflin. But Jason Adam was, to me, the most intriguing one, because I tried to think of another reliever that had such, mediocre or pedestrian stats, I guess you would call it, goes to a new team, pitches like his hair's on fire for 2.5 years,
Yeah.
but quite literally gets bailed out by strong defense the entire time, and 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 somehow is able to bring back three really good prospects. I don't recall that ever happening, ever. So, whatever the Rays had going for that, I mean, you got to tip your cap to them. That's an insane return, especially with Dylan, who can actually, he's a 20-year-old, Dylan Lesko, and he's one of those guys that everybody knows about because of how highly ranked he's been on the rankings, and to be able to bring somebody back like that, just for him, I would have been content, to be quite honest, for Jason Adams. So to get two other prospects on top of that is so insane. And the fact that Homer Bush Jr., who I think, if you talk about, him to the most people who've seen him play in the industry, they're all super high on him as an energy, very high skills and tools, mature. So I think the floor with him is very high. And then you have JD Gonzalez as well, who's I'm not gonna say he's an elite prospect or anything like that, but he has a lot of potential as a catching prospect. So, I mean, the Rays excellent job this trade deadline, and I think there's a lot of depth that they've added all over the place. Whether you look at relievers, whether you look at outfielders, especially outfielders that they needed so badly. So when you look at Aiden Smith, Matthew Etzel, Dylan Carlson, Chris Morrell, Homer Bush Jr., like those are high quality players who are adding to an area. I think the Rays were very, very cognizant of the fact that their depth in the outfield is about to arrive, right? So whether you have Chandler Simpson, Drew Baker, a bunch of the guys are going to get promoted to AAA, etc. But they wanted to build the waves that they keep talking about of talent at each level. So when you look at all those names I just said, they're all at different levels and they're all staggered to the point where you can see each time they're going to have a viable candidate coming up the ladder to keep pushing that talent up to the Rays. So I think I put in a tweet that or in an X post that the Rays had, went on a shopping spree. They had all the coupons and all the codes that you could imagine, and they just, went to town. And funny enough, who joined them on that shopping spree? Pete Bendix.
Oh yeah.
The Marlins brought in 14 prospects. The Rays brought in 13. So between the two of them, they had 27 prospects come to Florida. That's just insane number of talent. So you got to wonder if they had that playbook planned together before it started.
Well, Bendix just took the Rays playbook with him when he left. And as far as running for front office, I mean, let's take a look at it for a moment. So you got Luis Reyes. He's he's gone to the Padres. That was a few months ago, I guess. It seems like that. Jorge Soler, he's doing DH. And I remember him when he was with the Braves, and he's back with them now. Who else did he move? He moved Josh Bell to the Diamondbacks, Jazz Chisolm, like we were talking about a moment ago, to the Yankees, Brian De La Cruz to the Pirates, and I forget where John Birdie's gone to, but he has been very, very busy, Mr. Peter Bendix.
He needed to do something significant to change that franchise's fortunes. I really like what he did in that Trevor Rogers trade with the Orioles, because more than anything, he needed to support the pitching talent that they have, and he needed to do it decisively with two very, 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 very high floor prospects. And he got those from the Orioles in Norby and the outfielder that they got too. So I think when you look at those moves supporting the cast of talent, because they do have some talent. Xavier Edwards is a very good leadoff hitter. Vidal Brujan, we saw today, he can start driving the ball a little bit more consistently, plays all over the field. I like their third baseman, Jake Berger. I think he's a great, bat that they have in their lineup.
Mhm.
So with everything else that they're adding now alongside of that, there you can start to see where the Marlins are headed. It's just a matter of whether or not the talent is going to be able to make the adjustments when the league makes adjustments to them. So I'm sure Pete's not going to stop working yet, but he's starting to build an intriguing, new page for the Marlins, which I think every fan you talk to there will tell you they definitely appreciate because they didn't want to keep being the light hitting Marlins that they've been the last few years.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have felt the past couple of managers have not, general managers that is, have not necessarily had the what I want to say width and breadth of being of their office to do everything they needed to make it successful. So hopefully Pete
Yeah,
is getting
that's
it.
true.
Yeah. Here's one I was found interesting, being from Kentucky. Tyler Bell. Now he was from high school and 66 overall pick in the MLB draft for the Rays, but he's decided to attend the University of Kentucky instead of signing with the Rays. I mean, these things happen. I always wonder about that when you see this high school or college JUCO kid come in and they're coming up in the draft, names called, everybody stands up, cheers, hey, yeah, and then time comes pen to paper, and maybe they feel differently.
Yeah, in baseball, that happens more than any other sport. It used to. Now it happens a lot less, and I think it's because like I've researched this before in the past. At the time, maybe not now, but 70% of the time, if a person didn't sign, they were signing later in the draft the next time around. So they were missing out on bonuses.
Gotcha.
So for somebody to bet on themselves, which is basically what he's doing, is extremely risky because not only are you betting that your performance is going to shine enough to get you back up in the draft, but you're betting that others are going to do less than what you're going to do, which is the trickier part, right? So he could end up being part of a really talented class, and that's something you can't really predict. Um, and then fall short, end up being drafted in the fifth round, and he missed out on $1 million, so or even more than that. So he's betting on himself, so good for him. Hopefully he stays injury free and he actually goes through and like Drew Rasmussen, who did the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. He could still wind up back with the Rays at some point in time. The Rays will get a draft pick next year, though, for that competitive balance pick. So they don't lose anything. They'll get the slot bonus next year, the same amount, yada, 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 or a similar amount. So really, this is just, Tyler deciding that he wants to, for some reason, I don't know, you know this better than I do, Mark. He wants to hang out in Kentucky for a while and learn how to play ball there.
Urban bluegrass and horses. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
well, no, I wish him well. And I always wonder about that too, because he was drafted because the Rays saw that he would fit a certain need, obviously not immediately into Major League Baseball or, pardon me, at the show level, but, would see that he would fit a need. And that changes as much like what you were saying earlier. I wonder sometimes too,
Mm-hmm.
when you see these guys, Matt, and they are selected much later in the draft in the future. Do you think any of that is just the owners saying, you know what, you kind of stuck it to me, so I'm going to you're not going to be in my first picks? Do you think it's personal, I guess?
I don't think that. No, I don't. I don't think it's personal at all. I mean, I've seen it happen. So the one time that I can think of where it was blatant and it was really like he didn't even want to be in the province of Quebec. It was Eric Lindros in hockey. He was livid that the Quebec Nordiques would actually have the audacity of drafting him in the draft, and they forced the trade with the the Philadelphia Flyers, where they ended up getting Pete Forsberg and a horde of talent. So guess what? The Nordiques ended up moving anyway to Colorado, and the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup, and Lindros didn't.
Wow.
So it's one of those long stories where I still remember it at the time. I was shocked. I was like, I'd never heard anything like this. Normally, what used to happen is they'd say, "Oh, I can't wait to learn French. I'm really happy to go to this franchise." Yeah. Peter Stastny and a whole bunch of other ones had done that. But anyways, it does happen. I know it does, and there's people that probably cringe when they get drafted by the rival of their childhood team, which happens a lot. But I mean, you've got to suck it up, and you've got to be the bigger person. Yeah. I will say though, another point on that, the Rays did draft a shortstop in the 12th round that they signed to an overslot deal, probably with some of the money that was allotted for that they saved in other areas, knowing that they may not sign him, and because of that, they'll be able to slide him into the minors position that they would have had Tyler Bell in. So, and that's a Canadian shortstop. I can't remember the name. Think it escapes me right now, but I'll think of it. And he's known to be quite of the same style. He's a high schooler, high IQ, and really good defensive abilities. So the Rays are going to be fine without Tyler Bell. But you never know. They could end up being back on the same page down the road.
And we'll see what comes from that. One thing you and I both have talked about in the past, again, kind of take a step back a few weeks, and that's at the draft. And that there's not really the flexibility of the draft to say something like with the NFL, where they can trade positions. One team or the other says, "Hey, I'll go ahead in the back door, will and deal with you. I'll give you these two guys, but you let me take your spot in the draft, which is 5 spots sooner than mine." And the idea, though, of being able to look at trading prospects, I guess, or the opportunity for prospects. I don't know if that's something Major League Baseball ever do, but it would certainly add a different dimension by the time you get to trades.
I think there's a lot of validity to being able to trade draft picks. I don't see why MLB owners even allow it to be blocked, to be quite honest, because to me, I always see a draft pick as an asset of the franchise.
Yeah.
It's their choice to do to decide what they do with that asset. If I was an MLB owner, I would be telling the commissioner, hands off my assets. I get to use those how I want. And I'm a grown up, and I can trade them if I want. I can actually say, you know what? I don't want to select anyone. I just want to pocket the money. If that's what you want to do, that's what you can do, But yeah, I think it's ridiculous that they don't allow, and the fact that they're trying to use them as leverage to get something out of the MLBPA is even more ridiculous, because they're just going to say no. Either you let the teams trade them or not. We don't really care. It's up to you. It's your stupidity. Yeah. So, anyways, that's my thoughts on it. I think it is a stupid rule and it should change. The guy's name, the shortstop, is Jack Lyons, by the way, and they signed him for $397,000 in the 12th round. Wow. So it was definitely a huge overslot, and he plays shortstop, same as Tyler Bell. So he'll slot into the lower rookie level and move his way up from there. And the Rays have Adrian Santana ahead of him, and they also got Gregory Berrios ahead of him from the Savale deal. So, shortstop is well covered, regardless of whether or not Tyler Bell signed.
Wow. It's interesting to see, looking at that dugout today and seeing Carlson, seeing Christopher Morel, and I don't know if there's others in there, but I only got to see part of the game. But see, who's going to make a difference for Paredes? Christopher Morel, though, hit one, I think 425 feet today, home run at the Trop against the Marlins. So that's a nice start coming out your first game with your new team.
He is lighting it up early, and he has 2 homers already, 2 games, right? Yeah. So after 100 at-bats this year, Randy Arozarena had 2 home runs. So, he's got time to get more than that. and what my most intriguing thing is with the whole, moving on from Randy part, is when you look at Christopher Morel's performance against right-handers, you could argue that it's better than Randy's overall because the power numbers shine above and beyond what Randy's done. So the way that I put it on X today was that in 868 at bats, Christopher Morel against right-handed pitchers has 47 home runs, and Randy Arozarena has 1,558 at bats, and he only has 6 more home runs than Chris Morel. So, he's almost got double, or I think it's 690 more at bats, and he only has 6 more home runs than Chris Morel against right-handers. Wow. And to me, if you want to be a good MLB team, you need to do well against right-handed pitchers. And I think Chris Morel is going to really help them. And the key with this is also that Chris Morel is playing in a terrible stadium when it comes to home run numbers. I wouldn't say one of the worst, but it's not one of the better ones either. The wind tends to impact a lot of things that happen at Wrigley. So there's a good chance that in the AL East and in stadiums where the ball flies a little straighter and a little quicker if you're in Yankee Stadium and Fenway and, it used to at Camden, but they changed that. Right. So he'll do very well, I think, with the Rays, and he's already earning a lot of fans. Everything I'm reading on X says that people are on board with the Morel train. I think Carlson's going to take a little bit longer to warm up. But when you're looking at Randy's performance versus his, and this time you do it against left-handers instead of right-handers, Dylan Carlson matches up very well with Randy Arozarena. Not to the same level as Morel, but you can kind of see the splits there. So when you add both of them, you're going to play them in the same game sometimes. And you're going to, hope that they alter things to improve. But right away, off the bat, these guys know how to be in the big leagues. They add depth to the outfield, beyond Johnny DeLuca and Richie Palacios, who I haven't even talked about yet. And with Josh Lowe starting to swing a better bat recently in the last few games, you're starting to say, we've got plenty of outfield options. None of them are, all-star caliber right now, but they're going to be productive. And what I was more intrigued with, like Chris Morel, how they're going to use him on the field, because they had him play second base in his first game. Then they had him DH, but like you can see he could fit at first base, third base, left field, right field. I think he's going to be a little bit more like the Ahmed Rosario role than people think. And with his power, that's just another level. He's still going to have questionable defense to talk about, but the other part I wanted to mention, Mark, was the revamp of the bullpen. And I think, to me, that's the one that stood out the most out of the bunch, because it's still not complete. Like, Rasmussen is still in AAA right now or on the injured list. So there's still some moves to be made. But they added Hunter Biggie from the Chicago deal. And he's one of those guys who can really light up the radar gun. He can really, anchor the back end of the pen eventually if he blossoms the way that we think he might be able to do. So you have him alongside, a whole bunch of other arms that they brought in the minors, which are going to be, intriguing to kind of. So there's one guy that I highlighted today, I want to say Gervasi is how you say his last name. He's 6'10", 230 pounds. I mean, tall, like super tall. But he has a funky delivery where. Yeah, I am.
I said, make sure you do say his name right. If he's that big, make sure you say it right. Anyway, sorry for the interruption. Go ahead, man.
The cool thing about him is that I don't know if you remember when Tyler Glasnow first came to the Rays, he used to fall off to the side quite a bit, and one of the things that they had him do and correct it a little bit more was to go more north-south and more towards home plate. And over time, they just tell him, let it fly. And it'll end up where it ends up. And I think they'll do a lot of that with this guy to a degree. But I mean, he's got 30 Ks and 17 innings pitched this year, 2 ERA, and a really good FIP. And to me, when I look at him and how he pitches, he's the prime candidate to do another one of these Jeffrey Springs, Zach Littell kind of things where they turn him into a starter as well. Some of the other guys that they brought in on the pitching side are just as intriguing, and I just think the pen is going to be one of the better ones in the second half based on what we're seeing recently and the support and depth that they got in a lot of these deals.
Yeah, I don't know, I think I was a little surprised to see Rosario go, but sending him to the Dodgers, I know we got a right-hand pitcher for him though. I think Michael Flynn, and I haven't read up enough on him
That's right.
yet, but I was surprised to see him go. Where my fear lay with these trades was one, I thought Yandy. I knew everybody was looking at him hard, and Pete Fairbanks. Those were two names I was really concerned that we might lose. Fortunately, I mean, maybe fortunately it's the wrong thing to say. Jason Adams found a new home, going to San Diego. But if I had to choose between him and Fairbanks, I'd want Pete to stay here. So that was a good thing. It was a little scary because I thought potentially they might move Pete. They might trade Pete.
Yeah, I think the Rays did a really good job. If you stand back and look at the roster now, they did a good job of keeping enough veterans so that by the time you get to the 6th spot in the lineup is when you're getting to some of the pieces you could say are younger, still learning, not really, have their full capabilities with them. So the Rays did a really good job of okay, so you've got Yandy Diaz at the top, Brandon Lau, you've got Chris Morel, you've got Josh Lowe, you've got Johnny DeLuca, Richie Palacio. So you start looking at that mix of players at the top of the lineup on a daily basis. Well, you can work with that, and whatever happens below that is now what you're focused on actually accelerating. I do, when I still look at the roster and how they're performing and how everything's going now, Taylor Walls is supposed to be a healthy player. And I've been watching him, giving him all the leeway to show us some life with a bat, and it's just not happening. And at some point in time, the Rays are going to have to decide he is a bench utility player. He is not a full or even part-time player. I look at Oslevis Basabe playing for the Bulls, and I'm like, I'm pretty positive he's a better option against right-handed pitchers. 70% of the league is right-handed pitchers. Why is it not a flipped situation? Send Taylor Walls back down to AAA, continue having him work on his bat. It's obviously not working out. If they have to stop him switch hitting, which might work, and it's been done in the past, then do that and see how it works out. And then eventually you can flip it back. But I keep seeing these missed opportunities. There's twice today that he could have driven them some runs, never could put a ball in play, ended up striking out. And that just kills the momentum of a team. I'm not saying that he needs to light it up. He just has to be a contributor in the lineup, right? So that's just my point on Taylor Walls.
No, it's a good one, Matt, because he does such a great job as shortstop. I mean, you see him scoop up that ball, get it over to first in a heartbeat. He twists, he turns, he dives at that ball, whatever he needs to do. And you see him on defense, he's amazing. And it's hard to believe it's the same athlete that comes up to bat and experiencing the difficulty that he's experiencing there. So, yeah, he needs some fine tuning. There's no doubt when it comes to the offense.
Yep.
Or that defense? I bet anyway.
I will say also the pieces that they got that are the most exciting. I mean, when you have guys like Dylan Lesko and Brody Hopkins, who are all of a sudden they just arrived, right? They just traded for them, and they're already ranked as number 1 and number 2 Rays prospect pitchers. That to me, that's a huge bright spot for the future of the Rays, because we've been talking about all these bats they have: Junior Caminero, Carson Williams, Chandler Simpson, all these guys that are going to electrify the lineup down the road, but they didn't have the pitching to match at all. So they had a few pieces. They had some that you could bank on, and some that were just question marks. But now they've added the depth to make sure that they increase the chances that they'll find a star in there.
Wow. I mean, it's good. It's good looking for the future. And it's just so odd sometimes just seeing all the folks that just kind of up and disappear almost overnight. One thing I do want to note, and it's probably something not just the players, but the Rays had to agree on, and that's on their departure. Randy Rosarina, when he was traded Friday night, all I could think is, what's Randy Land going to look like? I didn't anticipate seeing Randy Land would be Randy sitting in Randy Land with the fans.
That was great.
It was. I mean, it's a great way for him to, give a nod back to the folks who supported him all this time. And I thought that was well done. And there was also, I saw footage of Jason Adam, I think the next day going down on the field and saying his goodbyes to all his buddies. Sometimes traditionally, I think of the image of a ball player, they call him into the office and say, son, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, trade you. But, by the way, the travel secretary's got all your stuff registered. He's got your flight and ready to go. And flight's out of here in 2 hours. So go ahead and brush your teeth and make your way out. I mean, okay.
Yep.
That's a bit much. But I mean, the idea is that it was a more friendly departure than I anticipated. So I was glad to see that.
Yeah, nobody brought back the fact that he was the last of the 4 players that would not wear the items for the Pride Night that leaves. So all 4 of them are gone now, and the Rays, I don't know if they'll ever have that back in terms of the Pride Nights and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
there's something to be said about cohesion in the team. And I'm sure it might have rubbed some people the wrong way, regardless of whether or not they vocalize that at some point.
now you're talking about Jason Adam.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I just want to clarify, because I was
right. So yeah, those are little tidbits that we don't focus on at all when players leave. But there's always going to be ups and downs in the players on a team. Some that stand out more than others. Probably a lot of them that are private that we'll never know and shouldn't know. You look at Randy Rosarena, he was in the mix of, I think, 3 big kerfuffles with players, and different ones each time. I think, no, 2 of them were with Yandy, I believe. So, yeah, it's not all roses, basically. So we talk fondly about Randy because of the moments he gave us. But there's also the off-the-field items that happen with some of these players, and sometimes plain and simple, they're moved because of that. I grew up a Patrick Waugh fan and Montreal Canadiens fan, and he was sent out of Montreal for all kinds of reasons that people either made up right or factually, or that were made up. But if you believe the folklore of the number of items that happened, it gives you a completely different view of what that trade was all about. Yeah. Same thing with Chris Chelios when he was traded out of Montreal. So there's a lot of things that go into the human side of these trades sometimes that we don't really talk about, because we hope that they're not trading them for silly reasons. Yeah, and I don't want to call those all silly reasons, but they have credibility, but you also have to worry about performance on the field.
Yeah, and I guess I start with performance, but if somebody's doing something where they're negating another person, for one reason or another, then I'm sorry, buddy. This is a team. This is the community you're in, and we need to support whatever the mission is as a team. And that I don't have enough information on him to say this, but I know Hunter Renfroe. Some people said he was difficult to work with, and I think maybe he had some ideas that were a little controversial compared to the rest of his group. God knows I can go down that route, and we could spend an hour talking about the things that some of these players say that I just say, you got to be freaking kidding me. Learn to shut the hell up. Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, I just did want to say I thought it was neat to see him in the stands with the fans on Friday night.
It's awesome. Like the amount of time he spends getting to know and cheer and letting the fans get access to him is second to none. I don't think there's many that do it better than him.
Yeah.
I know Mike Trout does a lot of that when he's around, but it's not every player that can actually, be that open to the fan bases, wherever it is, even the opponent's fan bases.
Yeah.
He's not selfish in only doing it for his own team, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They love him everywhere. I tell you that much. Yeah. I've been following the women's USA women's national baseball team and the tournament going up for the World Cup right now up in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And it has been amazing, man. Talk about tenacity. Uh, just quick rundown here for the USA women's national team. I look at them sort of like the Avengers. They're the top of the top. They're the cream of the cream. You may have a Daredevil somewhere. You may have a Johnny Storm or some Fantastic Four folks, but these are the folks that bring it. I mean, they're the ones because you figure there is no women's league for baseball in the United States. So this is if each year you only had an all-star game because there was nowhere else for the team to play. And they they went up with 38 players, had to hone it down to 20. And those 20 are amazing. And what you'll find if you've been watching these games like I have the last few days is you will find a woman who is a pitcher, and then suddenly she's over in left field. And it's not because that the pitcher wasn't working out. It's just that they rest that arm that way, and they've got enough talent the way they built this team that they're able to have parts that are interchangeable, and it keeps the pitchers fresh.
That's awesome.
It really is. I mean, and they've torn it up. This round robin series, the USA women's team has now won 4. There's one more round robin game tomorrow, which is really going to be interesting because the first game that they won actually is bad forfeit because Venezuela wasn't able to get there in time. But the only other team that will probably have 4 wins is going to be Japan. Tomorrow's the 5th game, and guess who's playing the round robin tomorrow? I mean, so that's kind of considered blind. It's the USA and Japan. So,
there you go.
Yeah. So the following day, you got your gold and silver game. It's going to be the same 2 teams. So here's a question, Matt. Think about this. You're going to be playing for all the marbles and get the next, not tomorrow's game, but the one after that. And actually, there's a rest day somewhere in the middle of it. But anyway, so do you show your best game to your opponent on a round robin game when you know you're going to be seeing them a day later in the tournament game?
I think if you ask the girls, they say we're not laying down for anyone. That's what they would say. So
I guarantee it.
If you had 2 like ace pitchers that are the same caliber, then you can just flip a coin. But if there's one that has an edge over the other, maybe you save that one for the gold medal. But that's definitely a tricky one. I don't know. I don't know in terms of like the scouting aspects of their level, whether or not that they would get information from what they see to the point where they could actually use it in the second game. So that would have a lot of play in it for sure.
Well, seeing as each team will have played 5 times in this tournament with 5 different teams before they get to the final games, that each team will have had an opportunity to see what some of the other players are capable of. And maybe you find a team that likes to bunt a lot. Will they be doing that throughout? Had Tamara Holmes on here recently. We talked about some of that, and a manager once was saying, "Well, they always bunt. We always bunt. So come in. Bring the outfield in." And of course, the team adapted. They said, "Yes, we always bunt." And now that you guys are bringing your folks in, we're going to hit it long. But it's I don't know. It's fun to watch, and I tell you what, Canada's been close on a couple of them with their team. They're a very, very, I think they're the youngest team they have out there. So we're looking at, let's see, Venezuela, Mexico, Canada, Japan, China, and the U.S. Those are the 6 teams that are playing. And it's really been some great ball, and you can tell which teams are a little more seasoned than others, but it has been great to watch all these teams. I'm really looking forward to seeing the last couple of days of it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm camping, so I won't be able to watch, but I'll maybe catch some highlights after the fact and see how it looked.
Well, I guess on that point, we probably should let you go, and glad you're able to join us here once again, my friend, and have a conversation about all this trade going on. So thanks for chalking out some time there for us. And
not a problem.
All righty, man. Well, thanks again, Matt, and we will get together.
Always a pleasure.
Is it always a pleasure?
Always.
Oh, all right, brother. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today on Baseball Biz on Deck. Hope you enjoyed today's show, and we look forward to talking with you again. You can find Baseball Biz on baseballbizondeck.com. You can find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're out there everywhere, iTunes, and just give us a review. Give us 5 stars and a few kind words. We love that. So until next time, thanks again. Special thanks to X-Take RUX for the music, Rocking Forward. Ta-da!